Welcome back to another Coach's Corner. We have chosen 6 quite different topics to look at this week. Questions including, can you spend too much time training in zone 2?
Yep, how to move from 70.3 triathlon distance up to running a marathon while still keeping up some swimming and cycling.
Can I replace my run and bike sessions with swimming?
And how to train for the bike leg of a triathlon in less than a month.
Yeah, a more typical question here maybe, can I use an Olympic distance triathlon race in the training for 70.3?
And finally, why am I slower with a pool buoy? Right, let's get stuck in then.
Okay, yes, our first question comes from Ghost Train Photo. Says, hey GTN team, I'm a newbie to triathlon. I did one sprint in 2021 and now training for my first 70.3. One issue I'm finding is that I'm running very, very slow, 14-minute mile, and can't seem to run any faster without my heart rate going through the roof. I run about 3 to 5 times per week, but mainly zone 2 runs. Is it possible to do too much zone 2 running and plateau on speed? Do I need to be incorporating more speed work to eventually be running at a 10-minute mile pace at the same heart rate that I'm currently a 14-minute mile pace?
Well, yeah, I think the simple answer is yes, you probably have been doing too much zone 2. It's not that you've been doing anything wrong, because actually, as you say, you're new to the sport, and I think that's
a great base.
Exactly, you've built up the base, you've built up that foundation, and now you're ready to take those next steps. Unfortunately, if you do just train at the same intensity the entire time, you will plateau. You'll get very good at that pace. You'll become essentially a diesel engine, fantastic at just chugging along at that intensity. It's time now to introduce a little bit of intensity into your running and trying to spice things up a bit. Yeah, it is.
It sounds like you're doing quite a lot of running at the moment, so that's great. It means you've got 1 or 2 sessions of those 4 or 5 to play with that you can make those faster efforts. So whether you're doing some intervals, whether you're doing some working at the pace that you want to be running at, whether you're doing hill reps, just basically changing the gear in those sessions. That is the emphasis of those, to get your body used to running faster, not for a very long period of time to start with. You then build that up and you will find that you'll just become more efficient actually running at the slower speed. But you also still need to make sure that you do keep in those zone 2 runs and that you're really strict with that and you keep them in that zone and not going above. Otherwise it all can become a little bit of a grey area, and then maybe you end up getting too fatigued and you won't benefit that way.
Yeah, also as you do start to introduce some intensity in some runs, you may actually just want to knock down to 4 runs per week rather than doing your typical 5. But yeah, good luck and let us know how you get on. Moving on to next one from Billy Stinkwater. Hello everyone. This week's question about improving the run got me thinking. I finished my second year of triathlon with 2 70.3s in 2023. My weakest discipline is the run, and I thought to do a marathon plan during the winter. I guess I averaged around 1,000 kilometers per year before, with 2 to 3 runs per week. In the marathon training, obviously increased that a lot, and it worked well for about 8 weeks. Then I crashed, figuratively speaking. Not sure if it was the running volume. And goes on to explain. He says, final question, how do I sustainably go from 70.3 training to marathon training while keeping bike and swim up?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think first things first, you need to obviously make sure that you get healthy and then you stay healthy. That is the key to any training program, being able to complete your training and look after your body. And you've probably learnt that the hard way. But then it's also important to know that just because you're doing X amount of hours for your 70.3 training, you can't just directly transfer that to running, because running is the toughest sport on our bodies of the 3 in triathlon. It's impact. It's going to cause a lot more fatigue, and naturally you just cannot run as many hours a week as you could bike, for example, or as you could swim without the same effect. So maybe really put aside your swim and your bike and use them to actually help your running, rather than thinking I need to try and keep them going. Use them more in a way of they're going to help with recovery or help with the endurance aspect of your run focus training.
Yeah, it sounds like you're very motivated by this marathon plan and you're kind of throwing everything into this. In which case, I mean, a proper marathon plan is absolutely exhausting. They're really hard work, because it is, a big feat. It's a big thing to undertake. So yeah, if you're trying to push yourself in the swim and the bike too, it's going to be really hard going. So yeah, as Heather says, use them just more to kind of facilitate in terms of recovery, and they will help with some of the aerobic conditioning too. When it comes to the running, it sounds like you maybe just need to progressively build that up a little bit more steadily. It sounds like you sort of jumped in the deep end a little bit too soon in the past.
Yeah, and if, I presume you've managed to comfortably do a half marathon within your 70.3, and it's hard to know exactly where you're at with that, and it does depend on your goal as to how fast you want to run that marathon, as to how long you need to build this up. But we would say between 12 to 16 weeks as a rough guide should be plenty of time for you to convert that half marathon fitness, or from the 70.3 fitness, into a marathon. And yes, you do have a little bit more than a half marathon fitness, because the overall bike and swim will still give you that aerobic capacity, and it's just a matter of making sure that your body is conditioned enough to increase that load over that period. But yes, you've got plenty of time on your side by the sound of it. So good luck with that, and just bring it back to basics and then build up focusing on the marathon plan.
Yeah, we've got a somewhat similar question coming up. So from Pedro Thurler, I'm currently focusing my training in a 200-kilometre gravel bike race. So again, going away from triathlon, but it sounds like I want to kind of keep up some triathlon fitness. So to avoid losing my running fitness for future triathlons, I'm still targeting 2 run sessions during the week. Currently, I'm only biking and running with no swim sessions. However, this week I have been diagnosed with a low back injury, and so I've having to avoid exercises that cause impact on my back. Having that said, I have to avoid running and some biking. So my question is, can I replace these running and bike sessions for swimming scenarios? I know it's not the perfect scenario for training for such a long bike race, but given the circumstances, is it a decent option? Any recommendations on my training plans? Thanks in advance, and great content. Yeah, interesting. How do we unpick this one? So he wants to do a long distance gravel bike race, keep up his swimming and running, but now he can't bike and run. So he can only swim.
It's literally the opposite dilemma to the previous person, isn't it? And sadly, you have chosen the worst 2 sports for crossover. But basically, it is going to be quite a challenge. And first and foremost, you need to make sure you're looking after your back and you're getting that sorted. And swimming can give you some aerobic fitness, and that is where that crossover is going to end. Yeah.
So your event's in July. We obviously don't know the extent to your back injury and how bad it is. Are we talking it's going to be better by the end of the month or so? Either way, when you do start to introduce any biking or running training, and I'd say then running will probably come later down the line, given the impact of running, then you want to do that very steadily and progressively. So don't suddenly launch back into big miles. Look at alternative means of trying to keep some sort of leg strength there, sort of relevant to cycling. And that might actually still be in the pool. There's things like aqua jogging. Some pools allow you to jump in and put sort of a flotation device around yourself and doing some sort of aqua jogging. So you're running kind of in the deep water, and you're essentially sort of going through a bit of a cycling motion there, and that's really good for sort of that cycle strength. And
it is very boring. But yeah, you've literally got to work around your pain, and hopefully you're working with a good physiotherapist, because I imagine core, I'm hoping you can do core work, because that's going to be vital as well for when you do get back on the bike. And yeah, any strengthening exercises that you can do overall, like Mark mentioned, that don't aggravate the back, will benefit more on crossover. But good luck with recovering from
I'm really sorry to hear this, in all seriousness. And I always like to say, we often get these kind of negatives that come during careers or when you're doing sporting challenges. Always try and look for the silver linings, the things that you can work on, focus on. So don't get bogged down in the negativity of your injured.
If something might just be helping your mental health, even if it's not. So that's still going to be a benefit, isn't it? This next question comes from Lucav808, and says, I'll be travelling to Central America for 8 weeks for work next April to early June, but have races lined up late June and July. God, you guys are testing us, aren't you, this week? Whilst I'm away, of course, I'll be able to run and should be able to do some open water swimming, but can't imagine I'll have access to a bike. What's the best way to approach training once I get back? Should I load more bike work into my plan and keep the running and swimming ticking over, or keep it more balanced? Don't want to be in the same situation as James's triathlon on Run Fitness video.
This is really interesting, isn't it? Because we're getting more and more questions like this, which is kind of quite inspiring, isn't it? Is that people, obviously triathlon's reaching so many people who are working with the oil industry, and they're having to go off for months and then come back.
And they're
still trying to give it a go, and I admire that, and it's making us kind of think more creatively about how do we train for these events, what can we kind of get away with, and some may manage it, some may not. So my recommendation to you would be, yeah, kind of preload a bit with the cycling and really get yourself as best bit as possible and strong on the bike as you can before you head away. And then obviously, as you say, you'll be able to then keep up the running and the swimming. And then, yeah, coming back, then you've got a short period of time to then get yourself prepped for the race.
I think the danger is when you come back is thinking, oh, we want to do loads of cycle training. But actually, that's where you have to be slightly reserved, because it could end up being detrimental to you. So you want to come back and almost just go into triathlon training of having an even balance between all of them. Because if you go and do loads of bike training, you might get injured and really sore and stiff, but then you'll drop the other two sports off so massively as well that you won't get the benefit that you've had from training for them. So it's more a matter of you're just going to have to be patient and accept that your bike is not going to be as strong on those first races, and it will gradually come back. Also, if you can get access to doing any strength work out there, that will obviously translate nicely to the bike as well.
Yeah, in some ways there's some crossover to the previous question as well, because you're going to have to be creative whilst you're away and think of ways in which you can keep that bike strength there and work on it, and be that maybe in the pool or whilst you're running. So nice one. Next one from Bagley34 is adding a formal Olympic distance. Does that mean we're doing a shirt and tie in my training plan? A good measure of my fitness halfway or so through my plan for a 70.3. Now, I think this is a great idea. It can be a kind of a slight gauge of your fitness. It's not going to be a be-all and end-all. You're not going to get tons of information and data from it. Personally, I think it's just a great idea to just sort of like blow the cobwebs out, go through the motions. But if your focus is the 70.3, don't try and taper down for the Olympic and recover, and then you should more or less just train through the Olympic distance. Use it as a big training day, blow those cobwebs out, gain a bit of kind of insight and things you need to improve on and change up, and then crack on, taper into 70.3.
And by not tapering as well should actually help you probably naturally be closer to your 70.3 pace, because you're not going to be feeling so fresh and fast, which is not what you need to get from that. You can also practice a bit of your nutrition. Obviously, it's a lot shorter, but it's a good way to just practice the actual physicalities of taking on a drink on the bike or eating on the run and that kind of thing as well. So there's a lot to be gained. Just make sure it's long enough before that you know, if you are a little bit tired the day or two after, you've still got a nice time to get another block of training in before the 70.3.
Yeah. Final question from B Mermaid. Mermaid?
Yeah.
I think that's how we say. Julia here with a swim question. Why am I slower when swimming with the pool buoy? I've seen plenty of videos where it's mentioned that a pool buoy can actually make you faster as it helps with the body position. So I was curious what the explanation for the reverse. Anything in particular I should be working on, or is it simply that my body position is all right and thus I'm slower because I don't use propulsion from the kick? Well, news for you. I am also slower with a pool buoy.
I didn't know you were. I am.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I think that's the right way, the normal way.
Well, the fact that your name is Be a Mermaid, I imagine that swimming is kind of the thing that comes more naturally to you. So.
Yeah, I mean, you are taking half the propulsion away, essentially. I mean, it's not quite that, but yeah, you are taking a significant propulsion away. Yes, your legs are floating on the surface a little bit better. So that is why some people swim faster with it, because normally they're dragging their feet along, maybe not getting as effective propulsion from their leg kick, and therefore they pop the pool buoy in and suddenly they're just slipping through the water.
It's almost like see it as a compliment to yourself if you're not. So that's what I tell them. That's what we're all on the same page here. But for those viewers watching who are thinking, oh, that's really strange, why I'm so much quicker with a pool buoy, that will be, like Mark said, just changing your body position. You can get a bit more used to it by just training more with a pool buoy and using paddles as well, which can compensate for maybe that bit that you lose from losing your legs, so you're gaining from the extra surface area on your paddles. But it's more just there as a training aid, and obviously you can't race for the pool buoy, so it's not something you need to worry about as long as you're using it well in your training. Yeah,
I mean, personally, if you kind of feel that burn and you sort of feel like you're really having to pull yourself through the water, that's a really good training stimulus. I kind of enjoy that. That's exactly what it's there for. So you're getting a lot from using it, more so than those people that are flying along. So enjoy it.
Okay,
well, yeah, great. Thank you for all the questions. Some challenging and interesting ones there today. Keep them coming in using that hashtag GTN Coaches Corner underneath this video, or any video for that matter. And we'll see you next time. Cheers.